Hello, hello! Welcome back, everybody. Welcome if you're new. My name is Brittany, and today we're going to be working on my island of Patagonia again. If you're new here, I just first want to start out by saying welcome and tell you how glad I am that you've decided to join us here today on our journey on my Pastel Kidcore island of Patagonia. Let's just really quickly touch base on my ideal for today. At the very beginning of my playthrough on Patagonia, I placed down the museum here because it was just out of sheer convenience where the way that my map is set up, I was kind of trapped in a small area because I could not access anywhere outside of my river because I did not have access to bridges or to my little vaulting pole. And so I put the museum kind of right beside of resident services to the left-hand side, just out of sheer convenience, and I really didn't have anywhere else to place it. But it's kind of grown on me, and I've kind of really started to enjoy the way that it looks in the area that it is. And so I want to scoot it back just a little bit, back into this area. And so I think that'll be our first order of business today before we start on my museum build. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to move my museum, kind of push it a little farther back, and then I'm going to start my museum build. Alright, and so now I'm going to go ahead and officially begin the build process. I'm first stopping by, of course, my storage and getting some items that I feel like I'll need along the way before making my way over to where my museum is located. I noticed that there's a couple of trees around that I need to move out of the way so that I can actually access the little area out front of my museum, and so that's going to be my first step in this process. I need to go get my shovel because I have forgotten it, which I do quite often. So now I'm going to move those trees that are in the way, and so there's a couple that need to be pushed back, and so I'm going to work on doing that first. Then I'm going to work on building up a pathway in front of my museum. I have this vision. Whenever I think about a museum, a Kidcore museum, I always think about going on a field trip to a museum. We used to do that a lot whenever I was a kid, and so I want to incorporate that into my island of Patagonia, my Kidcore island. I want to have my little field trip, which I know a lot of people use as their museum, but I hope that mine looks just a little bit different because of the items that I'm going to be using, and you'll see that later on. Guys. So, I was gathering items to get ready for my build officially, and just so happened to walk out on my beach and found Jacob, and he wants to move out. And of course I'm going to let him go, so good luck out there, buddy. But that means that for us, we'll get to have a villager hunt. So it looks like the next video after this might be a villager hunt for us, which would be awesome. I'm excited to look for some of my Pastel Core or Kidcore villagers, and I'll show you my dreamies that I'm looking for Patagonia in that video. But I just wanted to show you all that we have a villager leaving. So now back to the original plan, which is to work on building up that little path area. Now, I originally said that I wasn't going to do any terraforming whatsoever on this island, and my idea is to keep the general shape, but just like that little patch of river that I had to get rid of, I just wanted to be able to extend down this pathway so that it's actually a square. And so now I'm working on cutting out a little area inside of that pathway because I have this idea, which I want to use one of the fountain items to create kind of like this grand entrance to the museum, because I feel like whenever I think of the museum, I think of it as a grand entrance kind of thing. And so I'm cutting out this little square around my fountain because I want to put some items, and I'd like for those to be included in the grass area instead of it just being an entire patch of nothing but stone. So that's what I'm working on right now, cutting out that little square area. I don't know about you all, but I feel like the museum is one of the hardest buildings for me personally to build around. I'm pretty proud of how this museum build turned out, but But on my other islands, some of them I really didn't feel like I had a strong museum build around the entrance, because I feel like the museum again should be something grand, something that just catches the eye, because the museum itself is such a big and grand building that it deserves, some kind of build that captures that ideal. And so now I'm going in, I'm actually getting to use some of my items. And so here's an item that I didn't ever think I would ever get to use, and that's that little plaza arch. And so now I'm going to go in and I'm starting to place items around the fountain, and I'm using some Bunny Day things, which I've always been the most outspoken Bunny Day hater. And I think it's just because Zipper drives me crazy. But these items right here with this pastel color theme that I have going on, they just really jumped out at me, and I thought to myself, I want to be able to use the Bunny Day items that I've never used before, because I've actually never used them. I've been playing since the game launched, and I've never placed a single Bunny Day item on my island, but I wanted to be able to do that. I love the way that these little bunny topiaries are facing each other around that little Bunny Day basket. I think that it turned out really nice. And I'm adding in the garden flag. Am I the only one that didn't realize that the garden flag for the Bunny Day item has two different sides? Whenever I placed that down, I was like, what the heck is this? But I actually liked the way that it turned out, and so I left it. And now I'm going in with some different plaza items that I feel like would work. So I wanted to use that balloon item, and then also I'm going in with the fences, and I decided I wanted to try to mix match my fences, and I really like the pink and the blue variant of the fence, and so I wanted to go in and just kind of do alternating colors because I'd never done that before. And once I saw it, I was like, this is it. This is the color scheme for my Pastel Kidcore Island. And so I might actually go back and edit the fences that are around my plaza and do that alternating theme as well, because I think that it ties in those colors really nicely. And now I'm going back in and adding in that cotton candy stall too, because whenever I think about going to a museum, I think about it as something grand and something that is just extravagant, something I don't get to do every day. And so I wanted to add in that little cotton candy stand. And here's our bus pulling up to our museum. So I'm going in with my little standees here, my little bus standees, and I wanted to get one that looked a little bit more kidcore, and so I found this, and I really like the way that it looks. And so I decided I was going to put it right in front of my museum so that my little students could be arriving at their field trip, which you'll see in just a minute. I'm going to retrieve my students now. So I'm going in and I'm getting some stools. And then I decided that for my students, because I absolutely love them, I'm going to add in some of my little gyroids. And so I usually use them in builds, and I don't know why they haven't made an appearance on Patagonia yet, but I definitely know that I want to use them. And so I decided, hey, why not have them be my little students that are arriving for their field trip. And so I am a big outspoken proponent for the gyroids. I love gyroids, and I love to see them in builds, and so you'll probably see them a lot more frequently now that I, remembered that they existed. So you'll see those sprinkled in here and there. They're some of my favorite items. I love whenever they sing. You'll probably see me add in a build somewhere where I have an elaborate gyroid build. But I love the way that they look peeking out of the bus windows, and so then I sprinkled and peppered them in throughout the build, as well as the students that have already gotten off the bus and already arrived at the museum and are ready and excited for their field trip. And now I'm going in and filling in some of those empty spaces with the hedges. I just feel like it tied in the ideal a little bit more. And here's the thing, whenever I think about field trips, I just think about it being something that just stands out, something that's extravagant. In my memory as a child, going on field trips is one of the things that I have a very vivid memory of. And so I wanted that to just speak to me. I wanted this area to be something that is just grand, and something that any child, if they were to experience this field trip, that they would remember if they were to come to this area. And so I feel like I really captured that with all these colors and the Bunny Day items and different things. And now I'm adding in just a little area outside of my museum for if the students are working on a project or anything that they might be doing while they're on their field trip. I added in this little area here with a little sloppy table and the book and some froggy chairs. I love the froggy chairs. The blue and the pink are perfect for my island, and so I'm trying to alternate their colors as well and pepper them in. So let me know in the comments what you think about this build, and let me know any ideas that you have for any future builds for the island. I'm really excited with the way that Patagonia is turning out. I never in a million years would have thought that I could create something with such elaborate colors as I've created here, but I feel like it's really starting to come together. And there's my little gyroid students again around the table. I just love them. I love the little squeakoid. It's my favorite. And now I'm thinking about how can I fill in these empty areas. And so I'm going in with some items. I wanted to add in KK bubblegum there, bubblegum KK rather, which I finally did acquire. And so it is playing now in my picnic area that was originally playing the polka music that I hated. So, all has been rectified. And so I'm going in, and I'm not really happy with the way that the areas around the benches turned out. So if you have some suggestions for things to place around my little plastic benches, please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear from you and just see what you would have done differently, maybe what items that you might have placed around those benches, because I feel like it looks a little bare. But just let me know in the comments what you would have done. And then I placed down, of course, that little street lamp, and I love the banners. I think that's the original banners that come on the street lamp. It's one of the original designs, and I just like the way that it looked. And I added in this little merry-go-round to fill in some extra space, and I really like how it turned out, because I have been to museums in the past that would have some kind of little ride outside in order to entice, the children to, get their parents to say, or look at their parents and say, hey, we need to stop there. That looks like a fun place to go. And so I added in that little merry-go-round. And now I'm filling in some of the areas with the custom designs. And I don't know about you, but an area just really starts to come together whenever you see those custom designs go down. And I really am I'm blown away and overwhelmed with how much I love this area of Patagonia. And I keep finding myself, even after recording this video, just going back and standing in front of that fountain and just looking back up at it and thinking, wow, this looks awesome. And not to toot my own horn, but I feel like it turned out really, really well. I had this moment of inspiration, and I was just like, hey, let's get her done. And so I'm going in with those custom designs and filling in some spots where some kids might have dropped some candy or different things that they might have dropped on their field trip. And then I had this one piece of fence that I needed to put in, another pink one, but then I noticed that it was kind of off center on that little area. So I wanted to go back in and try to fill that in. I didn't like how it looked with that extra piece of fence at the end, so I decided that I was going to scoot all the fences over by one square, and I'm so glad that I did that, because in the end it winds up looking so much better because it's more even on both sides. So I'm glad that I made that decision in the long run, because I feel like it turned out looking a whole lot better for Patagonia in the long run. Alright guys, and that's gonna do it for today's video. I sure hope you enjoyed this build as much as I did. It's definitely out of my comfort zone, especially using all that Bunny Day decorations, but I think that it turned out perfect for my Pastel Kidcore island. I really enjoy all the colors and the way that it looks, and I just really enjoyed being able to step outside of the realm of what I'm used to and use a lot of those items, like I mentioned in my previous video, that I've never gotten a chance to use before. And I'm super excited to hear from you all and see how you feel about it as well. If you don't care to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, it would help me out. And I appreciate you all, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!